What's up everybody, it's Sean here and I am back today to give you a review of the Joe Freshgoods New Balance 990 V6 from the Prom to Paris pack in this Paris red colorway. So this is the second of two pairs of New Balance 990 V6s that released in collaboration with Joe Freshgoods. So earlier on I reviewed the Prom blue colorway already on my channel, so if you're watching this video, this is pretty much going to be the exact same review, minus the fact that of course it's a red based sneaker compared to the blue. And whereas the blue colorway was actually released subsequently in boutiques as well as on newbalance.com, the red pair was limited to only Joe Freshgoods' website. So if you struck out there, your only other option was to pick these up on the secondary market. So the stock code for this shoe is U990JF6. And this is probably the colorway between the two that had more people talking both positively and negatively. There seems to be not really an in-between when it comes to this colorway. It's pretty polarizing. And I mean, that makes sense because just look at it. It's a very bold red colored shoe, which I can totally understand people either loving or hating. But anyways, just like any other 990 V6, this pair is made in the USA, and it features the typical tech specs and the build that you typically find for a normal 990 V6. First things first though, here's a quick look at the packaging. So this comes in this gradient style cardboard box where it goes from a brighter orange on one side to a darker red on the other side. So we have this oversized New Balance logo on the top in this shiny finish. On this side of the box we have both the Joe Freshgoods logo and the New Balance logo. And then on the other side we have the tagline, which we've seen before on Joe Freshgoods past New Balance collabs, but it says made for us instead of made in the US. So as for the shoe itself, jumping right into it, on the toe box you'll see that the base layer of the sneaker is constructed out of a red colored mesh. Right above this we have a reflective 3M panel in red with the New Balance logo, and this appears again on the medial edge of the toe box. Overlaid on both sides of the toe box we have this perforated synthetic nubuck, and then wrapping around the front toe cap we have a genuine red colored suede, which is a little bit darker compared to the mesh and the nubuck above it. So this red suede covers the eyelets of the sneaker, and then the top two eyelets though are covered in another reflective 3M panel in red. And same thing with the New Balance N logo, this sits right underneath this on the mid panel, and it's also reflective as well. And then moving further down, we have another reflective 3M panel, but this time it's done in a slightly darker red shade. Above this we have more of that red colored mesh that we saw earlier around the toe box, and then beneath this we have a suede overlay which runs around the bottom of the heel. We have 990 branding pressed onto the lateral side only, and then on the middle of the heel we have this TPU layer with Joe Freshgoods made for us branding, and then on the top of the heel we have this perforated nylon. As far as the laces go, so first off, attached to the laces, they come with this lace dubre, which is done in this aged looking red finish, and we have 990 V6 branding. The laces themselves, they come with two different lace options, so the standard one that they come with looks like it has more of a vintage or washed look to it, whereas the other lace that they come with is a bit more vibrant and bold. Underneath this, the bottom half of the tongue, this is covered in the same mesh that we saw covering the toe box. However, the top of the tongue, this is covered in what looks like a perforated or dimpled mesh, and this is done in more of a faded red. And then glued onto the top of the tongue, we have this overlay with Joe Freshgoods New Balance co-branding. The back of the tongue and the interior of the shoe, this is covered in a red colored mesh liner. And then for the insoles, these come with a pretty well padded foam lined insole, and it has this gradient finish on top. So we have New Balance branding pressed onto the heel of the right foot and Joe Freshgoods branding pressed onto the left foot. So the upper of this 990 V6 sits atop this tooling, which is crafted primarily out of New Balance's fuel cell foam technology. So this entire midsole is painted in two shades of red, so the fuel cell is a bit more of a muted or faded sort of red. But we also have end cap technology, which is a dual density foam setup consisting of a soft EVA core surrounded by a stiffer polyurethane rim. This gives you a good balance of softness and support, and in the case for this midsole, it has a bit more of an orangey tone to it. For the outsole, so this is your typical 990 V6 outsole, and this is all done in this red colored rubber. We have this wavy style traction pattern on the forefoot along with these grooves to give you added flexibility, and in the middle of the heel, you'll see we have this exposed red foam. This is actually the fuel cell foam that's sitting in the midsole. So that breaks down the look and the construction of this pair. And for those wondering about how these fit to me like most of my 990 V6s. So I find that the 990 V6 is a shoe that runs a little bit long lengthwise. So because of that, I go a half size down. So in my case, I'm a true size 10, slightly on the wider side, so I get these in a size 9.5. It fits me perfectly lengthwise. There's a little bit of pressure around the ball of my foot, but in my experience, the more I wear the 990 V6, they really break in, and over time, the width doesn't really become a problem anymore. So your mileage may vary. If you have a really wide foot, you'd probably be better off sticking true to size. But for narrow, normal, or even a slightly wide foot, I find that going a half size down would probably fit you a little bit better if you like more of that snug one-to-one fit. To give you guys a point of comparison, I also go a half size down to a 9.5 in some other New Balance silhouettes like the 992, 993, 990 V3, V4, and V5, whereas I go true to size or a size 10 in other silhouettes like the 860 V2, 2002R, 1906R, and some of the made in UK models like the 1500 and the 991. Moving on to the comfort, so the 990 V6 is an extremely comfortable sneaker, but it feels very different from past 990s. So for example, the 990 V5, that was a very stable feeling sneaker. The heel especially had a lot of support and stability. Whereas for the V6, because of the fuel cell foam, it feels a little bit more wobbly, a little bit more dynamic, and a little bit more unstable. So it depends on how you define comfort. If you like something that's a bit more cushioned and bouncy, then you'll love the V6. But if you're looking for something that's very firm or flat to the ground, this is not going to be the model for you. Still, in my experience, I've worn a ton of different colorways for the V6, and it's a great shoe to wear casually. I can wear them for hours on end and my feet still feel great at the end of the day. Last but not least, in terms of the quality and the craftsmanship, so first off, the material quality was pretty standard, so that means it was pretty good. This is your typical made in USA material, so we have a mix of genuine suede, which feels very buttery to the touch, but there's also synthetic materials like meshes, synthetic nubucks, and reflective panels. So the materials were solid, but the build of the shoe, specifically for this red pair, was definitely more flawed compared to the Prom blue colorway that I picked up. So for the pair's red pair, there was a lot of noticeable glue stains around the upper, and the paint job on the midsole was also a little bit flawed. I had some areas that weren't completely filled in with paint, so that was definitely disappointing to see, especially considering the super high price point you're paying for a made in USA sneaker. So hopefully I just got a lemon. If you guys also picked these up, let me know in the comment section down below. How was the overall build quality of your pair? So with all that out of the way now, let's toss these on feet. I'll lace them up and I'll show you guys how these look. As I mentioned earlier, the opinions on this shoe are pretty split. On one end of the spectrum, I feel like all red sneakers are kind of a thing of the past, with shoes like the Red Octobers or the Independence Air Max 90 pack with that red pair. There was a time and place where all red sneakers were extremely popular. I was guilty of it. So I don't know how I feel about all red sneakers in today's day and age. But at the same time, creating an all red New Balance sneaker is pretty ballsy. When I think of New Balance, I think of gray, I think of more conservative colorways like cream or like olive, things like that. So by giving us a red New Balance sneaker, this is a very loud statement that I'm sure Joe Freshgoods did intentionally. Yes, you can call this a lazy design, which I totally understand, but I think this pack is greater than the sum of its parts, in that yes, it is just a red-based New Balance sneaker, but the fact that it was so out of left field to give us a monochromatic sneaker like this, I think that kind of speaks for itself to some degree. So let me know in the comment section down below, what do you guys think about this Paris Red Joe Freshgoods New Balance 990 V6? Between this one and the blue, I still prefer the blue colorway a little bit more. I think it's just more of a wearable colorway, whereas this one, it's gonna be extremely loud. I just can't see myself wearing this one that often. So let me know your thoughts, and as usual, if you guys enjoyed this review, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet. You can follow me on Instagram at esco8, check me out on X at sean.go spelled out, and visit my website at seango.ca. So thank you everyone for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this review and hopefully it helped you in some way. Appreciate the continued love and support, and I'll catch all of you in my next video.